Imagine a new intern just started on your team, fresh out of university, full of theory but with zero real-world experience. Their first few emails are clumsy. They ask questions in meetings that show they haven't quite grasped the basics yet. Every instinct you have as a manager, honed by years of putting out fires, is screaming at you to play it safe. Give them simple stuff, the low-stakes tasks, data entry, scheduling meetings, anything where the blast radius of their inevitable mistakes is small and contained. It's the logical, rational thing to do. You're protecting the project, protecting the team, and frankly, protecting your own sanity. But then you do something that feels completely irrational. You walk over to their desk, look them in the eye, and hand them a piece of a genuinely important project. Not a side task, but a real deliverable that clients will see. You're making yourself and your team's success vulnerable to the actions of the least experienced person in the room. On the surface, it looks like a terrible gamble, a rookie mistake from a veteran manager, but what if it isn't? What if this seemingly reckless act of trust is actually the most strategic, calculated, and surprisingly rational decision you could make? Okay, so that scenario, it truly feels like a moment we've all experienced, doesn't it? That kind of internal tug of war between playing it safe and maybe taking a significant leap of faith. We're sort of wired to protect ourselves, right? To avoid showing weakness or creating unnecessary risk. Yet that opening story hints at something, well, deeper. What if embracing vulnerability, especially by extending trust, is actually a masterstroke, like a move that unleashes incredible power?
That's precisely the fascinating paradox we're digging into today. You know, the conventional wisdom often tells us it's rational to steer clear of vulnerability. You wouldn't, for instance, leave your brand new expensive laptop just sitting there unattended in the busiest part of a coffee shop, would you?
Definitely not.
And revealing your deepest fears or, professional insecurities to someone you barely know, it seems almost unthinkable. This deeply ingrained impulse for self-preservation, for protecting ourselves from potential harm, betrayal, or exploitation, it appears to be the epitome of rationality. Yet, here's the profound twist. At its very core, interpersonal trust is universally defined by the willingness of a party to be vulnerable to the actions of another party. This definition creates a challenging paradox. If avoiding vulnerability is rational, does that automatically mean that trusting, by its very nature, is irrational? It fundamentally challenges our everyday assumptions about what constitutes a sensible decision, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests a real tension right at the heart of human interaction.
It certainly makes you pause and reconsider, because instinctively we understand that without trust, so much of what truly gives life meaning just withers away. As one insightful thought leader put it, whatever matters to human beings, trust is the atmosphere in which it thrives.
Right.
It's that invisible, essential thread binding us all together, from the most intimate relationships to the largest global organizations. So if we pull on that thread, if we question this conventional wisdom, what hidden layers of insight do we uncover? It feels like we're exploring a fundamental law of human connection and, collective success.
Exactly. We need to critically push back on the knee-jerk idea that we should always withhold trust as a default. One powerful reason is simply what it means to fully experience being human, to genuinely love, to deeply care, to cooperate on ambitious projects, and to take the inherent risks that come with trusting others. If you constantly avoid vulnerability, if you build these impenetrable walls around yourself, you effectively cut yourself off from the most meaningful and enriching aspects of human life, right?
Yeah.
Profound friendships, authentic love, truly cooperative, thriving communities.
Yeah, you miss out.
You miss out. Now, while that argument might resonate more with our emotional side and maybe not immediately convince someone who demands purely rational or, let's say, instrumental consideration.
Right, the bean counters maybe.
Perhaps. But for those who seek a more quantifiable or strategic justification, we need to focus squarely on what trust enables us to achieve. Let's look at that cybersecurity startup, Aegis. It's a real-world example of the strategic trust in action. They were on the verge of a major product release, the culmination of years of hard work, and literally days before launch, a fundamental architectural flaw surfaced.
Oh, wow. Terrible timing.
Awful. And this wasn't a minor bug. It was a deep structural problem threatening the entire system's integrity. The standard safe solution, a complete 3-week rebuild.
3 weeks, that kills the launch.
Absolutely. It would mean missing their critical launch date, almost certainly losing their first major client, and turning what should have been a triumph into a potential, bet the company disaster. The CEO, Sarah, was under immense pressure. Her advisors, the board, her own logical instincts all screamed, play it safe, go with the proven, slow, but certain route.
The rational choice, supposedly.
Supposedly. But then, her young lead engineer, a brilliant but sort of untested prodigy, stepped forward. He proposed a radical, completely untested patch. It was an elegant, almost breathtakingly brilliant solution on paper, but it was also incredibly risky. If it failed, it could corrupt their entire system, making the original flaw seem minor by comparison.
Oof, high stakes.
Extremely high stakes. Sarah's initial instinct, her rational self-preservation, undoubtedly recoiled from such massive vulnerability. Handing the fate of her company, her employees' livelihoods, her own reputation to this untested solution, it must have felt like a reckless act.
I think so.
But instead, she chose what she later described as strategic trust. And she didn't just approve the patch, she completely cleared her entire schedule. She absorbed all the external pressures, the frantic calls from investors, the looming deadline from the impatient client, the worried glances from her senior leadership team.
Wow, she became a shield.
A complete shield. She told her engineering team, essentially, "The decision on how to fix this is yours. I trust your judgment, and I will handle everything else." She created this protective bubble around them, freeing their cognitive bandwidth, their mental energy, to focus solely on the intricate problem at hand, unburdened by external anxieties or the fear of blame.
So they could just engineer.
Exactly. Empowered and unburdened by these worries, the team executed the patch flawlessly in a mere 36 hours.
36 hours instead of 3 weeks.
Incredible, right?
Yeah.
Aegis made its launch date, secured the lucrative contract, and cemented its reputation. This wasn't just luck, it was a profound illustration of trust as a calculated strategic investment. The real aha here, I think, is that trust isn't just a soft skill. It's a hard-nosed strategic accelerant for navigating chaos.
Yeah, that's where it truly gets fascinating, yeah. Sarah's seemingly reckless act of trust was, in fact, a deeply calculated strategic investment. She understood that in a high-stakes, complex environment, you can't always eliminate risk. Sometimes the only path forward is to trust your people to skillfully navigate it. By making herself vulnerable, by extending that trust, she didn't just make a decision, she activated something profound within her team. This is precisely where trust transforms from a seemingly soft concept into a powerful accelerant in high-stakes corporate environments. It turns a potential bottleneck into a pathway for success.
Indeed. Trust, when you see it as a strategic bet, offers incredible upsides that often far outweigh the perceived downsides. Let's delve into how it profoundly impacts organizations. It really acts as a genuine force multiplier. First, it leads to cognitive bandwidth optimization. Think of a leader's mental capacity like a computer's RAM.
Okay.
When leaders operate from a place of low trust, their mental RAM is constantly consumed by oversight, micromanaging every detail, endlessly verifying tasks, double-checking reports, worrying about potential failures.
Exhausting just thinking about it.
Totally exhausting.
Yeah.
And it leaves very little room for truly strategic imperatives. But when leaders trust their teams, they liberate their own mental energy. They shift from a mindset of control and oversight to one of creativity, foresight, and strategic focus. They can dedicate their precious cognitive resources to long-term planning, fostering innovation, nurturing client relationships, scanning the horizon.
The big picture stuff.
Exactly. It's a profound shift that unlocks higher-level thinking. Secondly, you see enhanced organizational agility. In today's, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world, the VUCA world, as they call it,
Right.
especially in fast-paced sectors like tech or highly competitive markets, organizations steeped in trust can pivot and adapt with remarkable speed. When a shift in strategy is necessary, or a new market opportunity emerges, or a competitor does something disruptive, a high-trust organization doesn't just grind to a halt with inertia or resistance.
No dragging feet.
No dragging feet. Instead, shifts are met with agility and proactive engagement from employees. Because that foundation of trust significantly reduces the perceived personal risk associated with change. People are far more willing to embrace new territories when they trust their leadership's direction.
That makes sense. Less fear.
Less fear, more forward momentum. And finally, there's adaptive decision-making. This capability is absolutely crucial in uncertain or rapidly evolving situations. Think sudden client demands, tech disruptions, rapid market changes. Trusted teams are empowered to self-adjust. They can make decentralized, autonomous decisions right there on the front lines without needing constant top-down instructions or those lengthy bureaucratic approval chains.
Cutting through the red tape.
Exactly. This capability dramatically streamlines decision-making, empowering rapid problem-solving where the problems actually occur. It's incredibly efficient and effective when stakes are high and time is critical. Allows for real-time course correction.
So The underlying principle is that by making yourself vulnerable, by extending that initial trust, you're not just being nice or adopting a certain management style. You're actively activating a whole suite of profound benefits that make your organization inherently faster, smarter, and significantly more resilient. It's like discovering a hidden superpower for navigating the unknown, a way to build a system that can not only survive but thrive amidst chaos. It turns risk into opportunity.
Precisely. And this connects powerfully to how trust influences the pace of organizational change more broadly, which is a constant, often daunting challenge for any enterprise, right? When employees deeply trust their leadership and the overarching direction of change, whether it's a fundamental strategy shift, adopting new tech, or a big restructuring role, they are far, far more willing to embrace new territories and step outside their comfort zones. This dramatically reduces the perceived risk associated with those big shifts, making transitions smoother, faster, and ultimately more successful.
How does that actually play out, like in tangible ways?
Well, think about streamlined decision-making. In high-trust environments, decisions during change tend to be remarkably swift. Less second-guessing, fewer bureaucratic layers, more alignment. Everyone understands the why.
Versus endless debates in low-trust places.
Exactly. Progress just stalls. Then there's the power of collaboration. Trust is the glue. During transformation, when you need new solutions, trust leads to a freer exchange of ideas, more honest feedback, a collective drive. Vital stuff.
And it must help with resistance, too. Change is hard for people.
Absolutely. Trust directly helps in overcoming resistance. It's a huge barrier. But a culture of trust can turn potential resistors into active advocates. If you trust the intent and competence of leadership, you contribute actively, you don't just passively receive the change.
You're part of it, not just subjected to it.
Right. It also profoundly enhances information flow. Transparency is critical during transitions. In high-trust organizations, information flows more freely, openly. Everyone gets the context they need. It prevents rumors, anxiety, misinformation.
Which can totally derail things.
Totally. And, as we touched on, this underpins agility and adaptability. The pace of change demands quick pivots. Trust makes organizations far better positioned to respond to market shifts, tech advances, competitive pressures. They're just more responsive.
And I guess people are more likely to stick around through the changes, too.
That's the final piece, retaining top talent. Change brings anxiety. But in trusting environments, employees are far more likely to stay committed, engaged, loyal. They believe in the organization's future and their place in it. It's about thriving within change, not just surviving it. And trust facilitates that.
Okay, so we've seen how strategic trust can transform these high-stakes corporate challenges, but what about the more, everyday team dynamics? Beyond the big strategic gambles, how does trust play out day to day? That intern scenario from the start feels like a perfect lead-in here. That new person full of potential but maybe lacking experience. What do you do when playing it safe feels like the default?
This brings us to what we call enabling trust. It's a proactive approach, where you trust someone in order to empower them to grow, develop, and ultimately flourish. It's about extending belief, sometimes even before they've fully earned it, through a long track record. Consider the story of Leo. Remember him? The quiet, kind of shy intern at a big marketing firm, incredibly diligent, meticulous, showed this clear, almost intuitive talent for data visualization.
But intimidated.
Visibly intimidated by the fast pace, the senior staff, the team was prepping a massive pitch for a huge potential client. Pressure was intense. Now, the typical quote-unquote rational management strategy: sideline the intern, give him admin tasks, rely on the proven players.
Keep him out of the line of fire.
Exactly. But Leo's manager, Maria, known for her unconventional but effective methods, she decided to try something different. She saw Leo's raw talent under that quiet exterior. She assigned him a specific, small but critical piece: a deep dive analysis of competitor social media engagement, an area often overlooked but potentially revealing.
Okay, so not just busy work, real responsibility.
Real responsibility.
Yeah.
And Maria met with Leo, not just a quick hallway chat, but a dedicated one-on-one. Looked him in the eye and said basically, "Leo, I've seen your work. I'm impressed by your analytical skills. I need you to own this section. I trust your ability to deliver something impactful." A small act of delegation maybe, but for Leo, monumental. Someone in power wasn't just assigning a task. They were explicitly making themselves vulnerable to his performance, betting on his potential.
Wow, that must have felt huge for him.
It lit a fire under him. He worked relentlessly, pored over data, stayed late, driven not just by duty, but by this powerful desire to justify Maria's trust. And he didn't just produce a brilliant analysis. His fresh, data-driven perspective actually helped the entire team reframe their pitch, which they won, by the way.
Amazing.
After that, Leo transformed, started speaking up confidently in meetings, offering insights. His whole confidence just soared. He went from quiet presence to indispensable contributor. Maria wasn't just rewarding reliability, she was extending this powerful growth-catalyzing opportunity.
That's such a deeply human approach, isn't it? That willingness to take a chance on someone's untapped potential. But for the more analytically minded among us, this isn't just a heartwarming anecdote, right? There's solid evidence behind this.
You are absolutely right. This is far from just a hunch or a feel-good story. The empirical literature strongly supports enabling trust as a perfectly rational and highly effective leadership strategy. There's a clear business case here. For instance, extensive research on authentic leadership leaders who are genuine, transparent, supportive. It clearly shows they're significantly more likely to have followers who flourish.
Flourish. What does that mean exactly in this context?
Good question. Flourishing isn't just about feeling vaguely good. It's a robust concept from positive psychology. It encompasses subjective well-being across multiple dimensions: emotional, psychological, social. It points to a holistic state of thriving, feeling competent, autonomous, having purpose, positive relationships, personal growth.
Okay, so it's a whole person kind of well-being.
Exactly. And that holistic well-being naturally translates directly into higher engagement, increased motivation, greater resilience in the workplace.
So the conclusion is that trusting people, by fostering this holistic flourishing, not only makes them feel better, more well-rounded, but it also makes them perform better. A real win-win.
Precisely. When team members flourish in this holistic way, they are indeed far more likely to perform exceptionally well. They bring their full self, their creative energy, their complete capabilities to their work. And here's the beautiful, self-reinforcing reciprocal loop that makes this so potent. One of the most effective ways to build someone's trust in you as a leader is for you to proactively extend trust to them.
The give and take.
Exactly. So by extending that initial trust, even when they haven't fully proven themselves over years, you ignite this powerful, positive cycle of reciprocal trust that benefits everyone. The individual feels valued, empowered, respected, leads to better performance, increased trust in the leader, which encourages the leader to trust further, reinforcing the cycle.
It feeds itself.
It feeds itself. And this is precisely why reciprocal trust isn't just a nice to have. It's identified as the primary motivation for knowledge transfer within an organization.
Knowledge transfer, how so?
Well, think about it. Why would you freely share your hard-won expertise, your insights, your intellectual property with someone you don't trust?
You'd hoard it.
You'd hoard it. So reciprocal trust is critical, often underestimated, for sustainable competitive advantage because it actively facilitates the free, efficient flow of vital information and expertise throughout the whole system. Without it, knowledge gets stuck in silos, innovation gets stifled.
That makes so much sense. It really is like a positive feedback loop. Trust begets trust, fueling growth, innovation, productivity. And this idea, it extends even further, doesn't it? Beyond just individuals, it seems fundamental to creating a sense of safety within the whole team.
It absolutely does. It scales up from the individual to the collective. This is where the concept of team psychological safety comes powerfully into play, building on that foundation of individual trust. It's defined as a shared belief among team members that the team environment is genuinely safe for interpersonal risk-taking.
Interpersonal risk-taking? Like what?
Like speaking up with an unconventional idea, admitting a mistake you've made, asking for help when you're stuck, or even challenging the status quo constructively. It's not about being overly permissive or creating a conflict-free zone. It's about a deep confidence that you won't be embarrassed, rejected, or punished for being vulnerable in those ways.
Okay.
And that confidence stems directly from mutual respect and fundamentally from trust among team members. It fosters an environment where vulnerability isn't just tolerated, it's actually encouraged as a path to learning.
So what you're saying is it's not just about being competent or reliable then. It's much more about the willingness to be vulnerable with your team. To be open about uncertainties, admit you don't know something, acknowledge failures without fear. That feels different.
Precisely. That willingness to be vulnerable is the critical linchpin. We know through tons of research that learning behavior, things like actively seeking feedback, transparently sharing info, good and bad, asking for help, constructively discussing errors, experimenting even if it might fail, these are absolutely critical for teams to adapt, innovate, and improve. Our analysis, drawing from robust studies, showed a strong, statistically significant link between psychological safety and these vital learning behaviors.
So no safety, no learning.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
If you don't feel psychologically safe, you simply won't take the interpersonal risks necessary to truly learn, innovate, and grow. And what's striking is, while a team's confidence in its ability to do its work, team efficacy is important for performance, sure.
Right, you need to believe you can do it.
You do. But that belief doesn't drive learning behavior nearly as much as the belief that you won't be punished for being open and vulnerable. It's that willingness to reveal your questions, your uncertainties, your perceived weaknesses that truly unlocks the team's capacity for deep learning and high performance.
That's a huge insight. It suggests if leaders want teams to learn, grow, innovate, they need to look beyond just skills and really prioritize building psychological safety. So how do they actually do that? What are the practical levers?
Oh, research consistently points to two key antecedents, two main drivers for cultivating psychological safety. First, context support. This means the organization providing adequate resources, making sure information flows freely, having fair reward systems. When people feel they have the tools, the info, and understand how they're valued, it reduces insecurity and defensiveness.
So setting the stage properly.
Exactly. It creates a stable, fair environment, making it safer to take those risks. Second, and maybe most impactful directly, is team leader coaching. A supportive, non-defensive leader who actively models learning behaviors themselves is crucial.
Walks the talk.
Walks the talk. If the leader openly discusses their own errors, acknowledges uncertainties, seeks feedback without getting defensive, shows curiosity, not judgment, when mistakes happen, team members are far more likely to conclude the environment is safe for them too. We saw this in a study of, I think it was 51 work teams in a manufacturing company. Teams where leaders coached effectively and provided strong context support, much higher psychological safety, and in turn, more learning behaviors.
Makes sense.
And it's interesting. While psychological safety is linked to trust is maybe the foundation. Safety goes beyond it. It builds on that trust to foster a broader climate of mutual respect and care where people feel comfortable being authentic and taking those essential learning risks.
From the intimacy of a corporate team to the vast expanse of broader society, this whole idea of trust and vulnerability seems to reverberate powerfully, doesn't it? We're living in a time where it really feels like trust is eroding around us, almost like a foundational element is crumbling.
Indeed. And this brings us to a profound philosophical paradox, that fundamental conflict between our rational impulse for self-protection and the inherent vulnerability required for trust. And this paradox has huge implications for building social capital and collaborative ecosystems in our globalized, interconnected, yet often fragmented society. Let me share a story that kind of encapsulates this. Imagine Jacob, a middle-aged, politically conservative farmer in rural Ohio. His community's well starts failing during a severe drought. Rationally, Jacob's first instinct is self-preservation.
Right.
Guard his own water, be wary of neighbors, distrust distant government officials. And he especially distrusts Chloe, a young liberal environmental consultant from California sent to assess the crisis.
Total opposites, stereotypically.
Stereotypes to each other, politically, culturally at odds. Yet the paradox was stark. To solve their shared water crisis, too complex for either alone, they had to overcome that rational impulse to distrust, to shield themselves. At first, meetings were tense, hostile, judgmental. But as they walked the parched fields, collected samples, studied maps, they were forced to rely on each other's competence. Jacob knew the land intimately. Chloe knew the science, the models, the funding mechanism.
Necessity.
Pure necessity. They didn't talk politics. They talked hydrology, flow rates, boreholes. A fragile, functional trust slowly formed, built not on shared values or affection, but on shared reality and complementary skills. They needed each other. And they eventually helped the town secure funding for a new well, averting disaster.
So the very thing that drove them apart, their differences, their rational self-protection, was also the only way to bring them together, even just functionally. That's powerful.
Exactly. They didn't become friends, didn't align politically, but they built a functional ecosystem. And this story underscores a deeply disturbing trend. The data confirms a stark decline in social trust in the U.S. Early 70s, about 50% of Americans believed most people could be trusted. Today, fewer than 1 in 3. That's a profound drop.
Wow.
And political distrust is rampant. Studies, like from 2017, showed around 70% of Republicans didn't trust Clinton voters, and 70% of Democrats didn't trust Trump voters.
Just mutual suspicion.
Deep suspicion. Even more alarming, the percentage of each party claiming to actively despise the other has risen dramatically from maybe 10-20% in 1980 to around 50% today. It paints a grim picture of polarization.
That's a pretty grim picture, yeah. If trust is the atmosphere everything thrives in, we seem to be suffocating. So what's the diagnosis? Is there a theory explaining this erosion?
One compelling idea comes from philosopher Kevin Valier, the distrust divergence hypothesis. It posits that political and social distrust and partisan divergence, they mutually reinforce each other. It's a vicious cycle.
They feed off each other.
Exactly. And it's not just about disagreeing on policy, which is healthy. It's about affect-based polarization. People adopt identities based on their political group, feel warm towards their in-group, and hostility or contempt towards the out-group. It suggests we're increasingly emotionally rather than intellectually at odds, reacting with visceral dislike, not reasoned debate. And Valier argues that when people and institutions fail to follow basic moral rules, don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat, it correlates with this affect-based polarization. Breakdown in perceived trustworthiness fuels emotional tribalism.
Makes complete sense. If I feel you don't have goodwill toward me, I won't extend it to you. A downward spiral, is there any way out?
And there is. And surprisingly, it points to something many might not instinctively consider. Robust market economies.
Markets, how does that work?
Well, think about it. When people from diverse backgrounds engage in trade, buying, and selling, they inherently come into contact. It creates organic opportunities to observe and build trust through shared, practical, mutually beneficial interactions. It's not about grand agreements or ideological alignment. It's about small, often difficult, rational choices to trust in another's competence to solve a problem we can't solve alone.
Like buying produce from a farmer you don't know politically.
Exactly. Or hiring a contractor from a different background. You're making functional trust decisions about their ability, their integrity in that specific transaction. These micro-interactions accumulate. This heartening idea suggests that well-run markets, which are in our financial interest anyway, can also serve as a powerful flywheel for building societal trust. When interactions are seen as fair, transparent, mutually beneficial, trust can grow, even across deep divides.
Interesting. Provided the market is fair, of course.
Absolutely crucial caveat. Appropriate regulation, fair operating environment are key. Exploitative economies erode trust. But the potential for well-designed economic systems to foster social cohesion is powerful and often overlooked.
It's truly fascinating how trust, which feels so personal, so intangible, scales from a small team's efficiency right up to national cohesion. It really is a cornerstone for collective success. So taking all these insights, strategic bets, enabling trust, societal paradoxes, what does this mean for us practically? Especially in our increasingly interconnected, diverse world. How do we apply this to build trust in real situations like multicultural teams? This feels like where the rubber meets the road.
It's a critical point because multicultural teams, MCTs, they're fundamental tools for globalization now. Organizations form them specifically to leverage diverse knowledge, expertise, problem-solving approaches that no single culture has alone. They offer immense potential for innovation. But paradoxically, that very diversity can also disrupt efficient knowledge sharing. Why? Because of social categorization, that unconscious tendency to favor our in-group, people similar to us, and be warier of the out-group.
Right, the natural human tendency.
Exactly. And this is precisely where trust becomes not just beneficial, but absolutely critical. It's the essential mechanism to solve that paradox, to turn diversity from a potential friction point into a powerful integrated asset.
So diversity brings the knowledge pool, but also potential friction. Trust is the bridge, the lubricant for the machinery.
Exactly. It's the essential connective tissue. Our research into how trust is built effectively in MCTs reveals a powerful two-pronged model. Foundational conditions first, then deliberate, joint activities that build trust over time. First, those foundational conditions, things that must be in place. Number one, a shared goal. Sounds simple, but everyone must accept and commit to a common objective, a unifying mission. Without it, why cooperate? As one study participant said, when everyone's on the same track towards a shared customer goal, trust comes naturally. Success is intertwined.
Got to be pulling in the same direction.
Absolutely. Number two, mutually accepted basic norms of interaction, especially crucial in culturally diverse teams. Different communication styles, expectations. Explicitly agreeing on ground rules, how we interact, give feedback, resolve disagreements, run meetings is vital. It proactively overcomes those initial cultural differences that can inhibit trust. One participant said cultural differences initially stop them trusting equally because of different interaction styles. Aligning on how we work together reduces ambiguity.
Okay, shared goal, agreed upon rules. What then?
Once those conditions are met, trust is actively built through four key joint activities, which we can group under communication and collaboration, drawing from behavioral integration theory. Let's start with communication, not just idle chatter. Two vital forms. First, professional communication. Sharing essential work info, giving constructive feedback, holding structured meetings. This builds trust based on perceived ability. Colleagues see your competence, skill, reliability. Like one person said, when I ask them something, I have to trust they give me the right information. Direct link there.
Trust in competence.
Right. Then there's personal communication, sharing details of your personal life, hobbies, family, weekend plans, challenges outside work. Seems informal, but it establishes deeper relationships, builds trust based on perceived integrity. Your belief that others are consistent, authentic, have good intentions. Someone said, it's important everybody tells or shares some information about themselves. It humanizes colleagues.
Builds connection beyond just the task.
Precisely. And the common thread across both is openness. It was the most frequently mentioned factor for increasing trust. Lack of personal knowledge, unaddressed diversity, huge inhibitors because they prevent that open exchange. People revert to stereotypes.
Makes sense.
And crucially, reciprocity is vital. If you open up, make yourself vulnerable, the other person needs to reciprocate for trust to truly build. That give and take, like someone put it, if I tell about my life, maybe they could be a bit more courageous to tell about themselves too.
So it's not just talking, but the kind of information, the vulnerability, and the mutual exchange, deeper than just communicating.
Exactly. Intentional, meaningful exchange, taking a calculated risk. And then we have collaboration involving more direct, risky actions where you're vulnerable to another's performance. First aspect here is helping behavior. Going beyond your job description. Spontaneously helping, offering support, honoring a promise even if it's inconvenient. Someone said, if you ask someone to do something and he promises that you can trust they do it, it's letting go of control, relying on someone else. Actions speak volumes here.
Tangible proof of reliability.
Undeniable proof. Second is task executive behavior. Activities directly contributing to shared goals within your role. Taking responsibility, delivering quality work on time, meeting expectations. Provides clear cues about your ability and integrity. And interestingly, a leader's lack of monitoring can also be seen as a sign of trust. Someone shared, they are not doing that anymore, so that tells me they trust me. It signals belief in your competence.
So trust isn't just what you do, but sometimes what you don't do, like micromanage.
Right. Now, it's crucial that all four, professional communication, personal communication, helping behavior, task executive behavior, need to be joint activities. If only two people do it, sure, you get strong interpersonal trust between them. But for team-level trust, that collective belief benefiting the whole group, enabling knowledge transfer, psychological safety, all members must consistently engage over time.
Everyone has to participate.
Everyone. Consistently. This creates a powerful reinforcing cycle. A joint activity, increased perception of trustworthiness, fosters reciprocation, further increases that perception, strengthens positive expectations, reinforces the norms. It continuously fuels itself, transforming a collection of individuals into a truly cohesive, high-performing unit. The core insight. Trust isn't a feeling, it's a dynamic created through consistent, reciprocal, vulnerable actions, especially crucial in diverse settings.
That's a profound takeaway. It means trust isn't just a feeling that appears or something you grant easily. It's actively built consistently, deliberately through these reciprocal, sometimes vulnerable actions. And in diverse teams, where divisions might naturally arise, that active building is what turns potential into powerful reality, transforms diverse skills into an integrated force. Wow, what a deep dive this has been. We started with that seemingly irrational act, trusting the new intern with something critical, something that flies in the face of self-preservation. And what we found is that this kind of vulnerability isn't a flaw, not a weakness, but actually a fundamental feature of high-performing systems. It's strategic, calculated, it unlocks agility, optimizes mental energy, empowers teams and individuals to flourish.
It's about fundamentally rethinking rationality itself, isn't it? While our initial instincts might scream for self-protection, the true strategic advantage in business, in teams, even in society, often lies in that courageous leap of faith. Trust, by enabling vulnerability, doesn't just foster reciprocity, it actively enhances learning by creating psychological safety. And as we saw, it can even help bridge gaps in a polarized world. It's a powerful cycle that, once initiated intentionally, fuels itself, creating this self-sustaining ecosystem.
It truly changes how you think about every interaction, doesn't it? From simple delegation to complex societal challenges, the lens of trust transforms risk and opportunity. That moment when you choose to lean into trust, offer that vulnerability, it isn't really a gamble. It's an intentional investment in a richer, more effective, and profoundly more human way of working and living together. It unlocks capabilities we might otherwise never realize.